Stock Exchange is quite small and quite unique, strange even. Bongani, you can kick us off with that.
Yes, indeed. I mean, obviously the focus today is on all things Zimbabwe, and our number of the day is certainly no exception. So here it is as it comes on your screen. That's where it is from, but that's the actual number of the day. Minus 0.6%. That is, of course, the fall in the all-share index on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange on the last recorded day. That would have been Friday. But what's interesting is that a fall doesn't necessarily mean that investors weren't happy ahead of today's polls. It'd be a very different number in Johannesburg, I can tell you. But in fact, in Zimbabwe, it's the exact opposite because the stock exchange in that country is a little what you might call topsy-turvy. Zimbabwean investors have generally been using stocks as a way to preserve their wealth, especially because of concerns about inflation. So the government continues to print a form of money called bond notes to deal with a lack of dollars. But the cost of goods has risen as their perceived value has continued to fall. So that's why when investors are concerned, the market goes up, and the benchmark index had climbed by 10% since the election date was set on the 30th of May. But when the market comes down like it did on Friday with that number, it may be a sign that investors are feeling a lot more confident. It might feel a little counterintuitive, if you like, but that's the picture in Zimbabwe. Well, we're joined now to discuss rather all of this by economist in Harare, John Robertson. John, good evening to you. Firstly, let's just talk about how the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange has become something of a haven to store wealth, as I said in that introduction.
Yes, that's quite true, and it's because of the instability of the apparent value of the money we have in the country, which is largely electronic money, but because of the scarcity of cash, the premium being paid by people using that electronic money to buy money with which they can pay for imports has led to the premium threatening the value of the balances in the bank accounts. And people have moved to the stock exchange, quoted shares, in order to preserve the value, thinking that they might sell those shares for more than they paid for them later on if, in the meantime, the money itself falls in value. So it is a haven, and people have been looking to the property market with the same sort of intentions. But all of these are very confused by the number of people who would rather externalize the money because of the instability. We're hoping now that the election will bring some confidence back to the economy, and we will no longer see that uncertainty affecting prices.
So also what I find interesting, John, is that it's not just a premium on stocks, but we're also seeing a lot of movement around cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Tell me about that.
Well, that has been very severely criticized by our central bank. They feel that this is not the right way to go. And, of course, before you can actually buy a Bitcoin, you've got to have hard currency like United States dollars to pay for them. So the people who have moved in that direction have paid the premium to buy US dollars, and that premium might not allow them to make a profit on the Bitcoins, while they themselves did demonstrate a fair amount of instability in the prices.
Zimbabweans have, of course, been burned by holding cash reserves, have they not?
They have, and again, it's from the uncertainties that have flowed from the lack of investment, the premiums paid for foreign currency, very high unemployment rate, which means that not a very big proportion of the population had a steady income to support the business activities within the country, and because we still have a high dependence on imports. And all of these confuse these issues enormously.
Do you think that today's poll will encourage investors? We've heard, of course, President Mnangagwa saying that he's already reaching out to potential investors. Nelson Chamisa saying pretty much the same thing. Do you think today's vote will encourage voters to look towards Zimbabwe?
We hope to see what the election results suggest. But I believe that the change is absolutely inevitable, because whichever party wins and whichever president wins, they know that they cannot continue with policies that do not work. So we will change from policies we've had in the past years. And of course, we're all hoping that the policy decisions made in the next few weeks will dramatically change the outlook, dramatically improve the levels of confidence. And if Zimbabweans become more confident, I'm sure that will encourage the foreign investors to be more confident in our future as well.
But of course, whoever gets elected, the economic challenges, as you've pointed out, are going to remain huge in terms of infrastructure, in terms of so much that needs to be fixed. And of course, with all the politicking, there are going to be those who are going to say they, of course, are the candidate that is going to be better for that election and that outcome. Right, we'll have to leave it there with our analysis from Harare at this hour. Now, of course, much hope has been placed on this election to bring about change in Zimbabwe, and also for leadership that's going to turn that economy around. Once deemed by some, although that's disputed, to be the breadbasket of the region, Zimbabwe has seen some tough times leading to a skills drain, high unemployment levels and widespread poverty. Experts